So please, everyone give it up for Abid.
Thank you, Richard. Hi everyone, Richard just talked me up. I'm not that kind of, I'm a standard guy, nothing special about me. But before I begin, can I have a show of hands of people who have already been involved in a startup or is running a startup? And what about people who are considering opening a startup? Good. There's quite a lot of people. Let's get into it. Let's talk about, there's a startup story and there's my story. I'll try to take you from a timeline. So I moved to Australia in 2013, about 13 years ago. It's nearing 13 years. When I came here, these are some of the pictures of my times here and when I was leaving. That's the time on the airport when I was leaving Pakistan with my brother and my sister. They were about this high, but now they've grown up. The journey has been exciting, thrilling, long, all kind of emotions all together. Now, when I came here, I'll tell you a story. I couldn't find a space, so I found this place, a backpacker place, because it was kind of cheap and hotels were too expensive. And I came to a place where I was like, can I get some accommodation? Like, yes. Like, when can I get in? Like, you got to first inspect and do this and do that. I'm like, okay, shit, I don't know anything about that. So I stayed there and then I walked outside and this guy on the push bike started talking to me and I could not get a word he said. Like, I'm like, do I not know English or is there something going on? What's happening? So it was a new environment, new everything and just thrown right into it. University has been really nice, made a lot of connections, a lot of friends. And I think there's some things that I'll touch on. A lot of people it's brought to my attention. They have a misconception. I want to bring this. Normally, I just keep quiet about it. That people assume that I come from wealth or my parents have supported me a lot along the way. They have quite emotionally and somewhat financially, but I've managed to navigate around and go through the financial hurdles myself as an international student, paying off my tuition and everything as well. So how I funded that, I got involved in a lot of mining machinery exporting and bought a lot of vehicles that I could just fix, rebuild engines and flip them. I was quite good handy on those kind of things and I did that for a while. During Thermalog, I'll probably touch on that a bit later. But let's move on. What happened? How did I come about this idea? So I've worked at service stations and the Ben & Jerry's ice cream, they're expensive, and there's a lot of them at one point in a freezer. So I just went in and at one day and then the customer brings a tub to me, it's like, it's all melted. I'm like, is it? I'm like, oh, I got to chuck all of them away. And then I figured out like there is a market in there. It could have been saved and I started thinking about it, like what if I had sensors in there, I could have been prompted to know about it in advance. And then I looked around, there wasn't any major solutions. It's like some solution that you could wire something in. It was not cost effective. It would take a long time for someone to come in, wire it up, and costly as well. Like people were willing to take the financial penalty from the stock loss than to put a system in that could work. So I thought, well, let me make something. Well, I did take one of those melted ones home and, put it in the freezer, refroze it, and then this was the process. I got sick. Now, it's a very big problem, food poisoning. There's how much? 350 million tons of food that's wasted just due to inadequate temperature control every year, and $200 billion worth of stock food producers lost because of that as well. 1 in 6 people get sick every year, and in Australia we're pretty good. Have you been to Bali and other places? Bali belly and all the different things. The food poisoning is pretty bad around the world. So 420,000 people die each year just from food poisoning alone. And Australia is relatively not as bad, but 86 people, which is still a shame. We shouldn't have any people at least dying from food poisoning. Now, what we actually made, we made a tablet that you can mount on the wall now or on the table. We have probes, we have sensors, we put it in all the different environments. from freezers, fridges, air conditioning, and whatever there's needed for temperature control. And then we have real-time alerts. The back end's a bit complex. We use bacterial growth models. We now do a bit of AI work, where we do energy monitoring. We can estimate energy consumptions of the machines just from the temperature data. We can also do a bit of predictive maintenance, so we can know to a certain extent if the machine's about to go bad, given the changes in their energy usage. The grind behind the build. So when I started, COVID happened. And I don't know if you obviously would all remember COVID. The chips shortage was a bad thing. We developed a platform on, in the MCUs. Anyone from electronics background? No? Yeah. And then you couldn't find the MCUs that you needed. You designed it on one chipset, and the next thing you know, you can't get them anymore. And then you went on to the next one, and then we had to design four different companies from different providers. We designed it, the firmware and the hardware ready to, sitting on the shelf, on the designs, that whatever we needed, we can't stop, we'll just go with that. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to compensate for the market fluctuation. The Raspberry Pis, we initially designed something on Raspberry Pis. From where we started and where we are now, it's gone through many different iterations, just numerous amount of iterations. We went through, these are some of the things, so and obviously there's financial constraints. They are all exactly the same thing, except the antenna design is slightly different. And we had to test them, so which one performed better, rather than spending $50,000, $60,000 to do a specialized testing on different things. So we just designed it, design, test, iterate. It's a lot of trial and error. And most of the things were built from hand. You can see like a little scalpel, putting things together. And this was one of the initial designs. Things have changed dramatically from that, and that was the dashboard built on Raspberry Pi, and you couldn't get them at that time either. They were out of stock in a lot of places. This was one of the early builds and just in the testing, and was in one of the areas. There's some hard truths to the thing. I will just, this startups is not obviously easy. It's a lot of commitment, a lot of hard things. A lot of people assume that this is startups, what they're like. But reality is, at one point I was doing a full-time engineering role during the weekdays. After work, I would come sometimes here sitting at the I2N, working on Thermalog and designing that stuff. Then on the weekend mornings, I would work morning shifts at service stations, and those nights I would work as an Uber driver. So I needed a lot of capital, a lot of money, and to get that, I worked hard. I worked very hard. It came with its own problems. Obviously, you get a bit frustrated. Your connections with people get affected. But I just sucked it up. Burnout wasn't a risk. You have to get along with it and go with it. But now that I think about it, I have no regrets. I loved it. It made me stronger. As I said, it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. The turning point, a lot of people would think when you were doing that much, you were pushing so much money, what happened, what changed? So we had an entrepreneur in residence, James Bradley, and I would go and talk to him, and I was very much product oriented, and I was like, oh my God, this works so good, and everyone's like, and everyone, Leonie, everyone actually praised me. It was like, this is a really fantastic product, but I had zero courage to go out and actually sell it. And he goes, Abid, I don't care. Go out, sell it. And I'm like, I don't know how to do it. And I was like, go out, and literally, not joking, that shop across on the corner there, I went there, and I said to him, listen, I've got this thing, and I'm trying to sell it. And it's like, would it be of any interest to you? And he's like, yeah, I'd buy it. I'm like, are you serious? Are you joking? And I went across the street. I went many different places, and how would that, would you buy it? I'm like, yeah. And to be honest, there was a bit of coaching behind it as well. The I2N team, Richard and Siobhan, they managed to bring in some people. What did you call them? consultants? Facilitators, yes. And they gave a lot of good courses and coaching around, like, how would you sell? Selling is an art as well. Like, you ask questions, you don't tell them that you want it. It's like, oh, what about this? Would you need it? Like, do you have fridges? They break? Yeah. Like, you would, then after they recognize the problem, that's when you sell them. So, I got a bit of, it's not my comfort zone. I don't like selling to things, and I'm an engineer from the background. I like making things, but not selling them. But I went outside and sold them and went on to different places, and I got good traction. So that validated that there is a requirement, there's a desirability for my product. Now, traction from since then, at the moment, we have orders for 200 sites. But at the moment, we're live right now. We have 200, we are monitoring 102 sites, 1285 sensors installed and different probes along with that. And we have saved over that's a very conservative estimate. $500,000 worth of stock is saved. That could have either gone into bin or someone could have gotten sick from it. These are some of the clients that we cater for. Any questions in that?
I think
and what I'll tell you about a startup journey, it's not about, to be honest, I don't think I'm capable enough to do everything. I had a very big support from really good people around me, a big team, not just people who were employed by me, but externally, your friends, your family, the I2N cohort, the I2N team, Signal, I can't thank people enough, and the mentors, the connections that we have, and everyone, brought some different thing. I've got some friends, and every time I'd go like, man, this is going to shit, like, what am I gonna do? I think I'm like, just, you're just hanging by a thread, and he goes like, no man, you got it, stick by it, you got this, and then you got this motivation, you wake up the next morning and you get to the grind again. So, from the whole team, from Matt at the bottom, always there at the security, so you go and have a bit of rant and like, what's not working, what's shit, what's not, like, you have to take it off your chest sometimes. Siobhan really, in the initial days, really pushed me out, like, put you out there on the spotlight, get you engaged with a lot of different people, and I made a lot of valuable connections from that. And the I2N team, you got a good vibe going. Richard is really nice, and you have a discussion with him, and he'll tell you point blank, a bit, this is shit. And I'm like, okay. And then it's a constructive feedback, then you work on it and then you fix that. We have Leonie and Craig both present here today, and they're like the glue for the I2N Accelerator cohort, because you don't feel alone, you're together, all in this together, and you feel like, I'm not going through the grind, they're going through everyone's going through the grind, and it's just, you feel like you're connected with the other people, and they just provided their space, their emotions, their love to the whole cohort, and it kept everyone together. I think if it wouldn't have been with them, we wouldn't have that glue. They were the glue for the I2N cohort, the Accelerator cohort. Thank you. I actually had this interesting thing. I think a lot of people use ChatGPT, these days. So I'll just keep quiet and let you read this. I had this prompt and asked them, so I checked with a few friends and they said it's quite right about you. I think it might be a good thing for you guys to do too.
Is it because chat has the back?
It has a lot of your prior history. Yeah. Because you ask questions that it kind of can analyze how. Yeah. So that's what it says. You think you're that, but likelihood is you're that. Final reflections. It's a crash course. It's like, I think I would have probably taken 20, 30 years to get to or know things about myself that I would not have known, because you don't know about yourself until you're in intense pressure. And I think this was a great opportunity for me to learn about myself rather than building a company. Building a company, people can do that later in life. Another time, it's more about knowing myself. And I worked out that I would rather work for myself and make $20,000 rather than $200,000 for someone else, or $500,000, or whatever that may be. No superhuman, just what I found. People are nice. Most people are nice. Not saying everyone's nice. And you just go out and just give them a humble request. I'm like, hey, I'm struggling. Can you ask? Don't be afraid to ask. And that's also one of the things. We had this NCRS finding where there's 9 ways of conflict resolution. A lot of coaching. If you're in the I2 accelerator, you're gonna be sorted. Don't worry about that. And they found there's negotiation. There's 9 different ways of conflict management or resolutions, and one of the best is negotiation, which I wasn't really good at, but I found that the worst I was at was to ask. And the guy asked me, the most easiest thing in the world is to ask, and you don't do that. So don't be afraid if you are in a startup, if you're about to get into a startup, just ask. Don't hold back. Now, I always, wherever I go and ask people, because I want to grow and expand my business. So if you guys have any connections in these areas, in these businesses, please, I would love to have an introduction, or if you could connect me to those people, or if you might already be in that industry, and I'd love to have a coffee with you guys. That's it.
Thank you, Abid. That was a beautiful demonstration of the ups and downs of the life of a founder. Thank you so much. So this is the point in the event where we have some questions submitted from registrants, from you all, as well as opening up for you to the floor for your questions near the end. So I'm just going to kick off, or make some remarks and then kick off. We're in the pre-sale right now, and we have spoken about that, the undulating journey of the founder, the big ups and downs. Yeah, it's a roller coaster of things that happen and of emotions for all people involved. And I love the way that you communicated the power of the cohort, the power of your fellow founders, and the power of the support network that was surrounding you here, and both here in the building and in your personal life as well.
I have actually, did you mention, even Siobhan actually asked me a few times, a couple of times, that if you ever need to talk about something, come to me, and if you're stressful, like, I think she could read people. Can you read people?
But it's a beautiful demonstration of what it actually is like, rather than what the outside might look like. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's been a great pleasure to be able to support you in all of that.
It's been an honor being a part of it.
But from the questions that we've received, there's a couple that touch on product, there's a couple that touch on business, and there's a couple that touch on being a founder, just the life of a founder. We're going to start with a couple on product and business. You mentioned a pivot in your business and how you went from being a product builder to someone who then had to sell. And then how also during the pandemic you had to pivot some of your manufacturing processes and design processes. Sorry. What about you as a founder? What was a pivotal moment for you as a founder in that journey?
I think the pivotal moment would definitely be when I switched from creating to selling. That would be the pivotal, because that's where I got the sense that, okay, now I don't have that financial burden to worry about, because now that I can feedback, throw that money straight back into the business to sustain it. Before, I had to work three jobs to sustain it. That would definitely be the pivotal moment where you're actually seeing some revenue stream coming in. And I actually highly advise, like, if there's other startups, start from the get-go, get the money in. Customers' money is the best money.
And just breaking that down a bit, when you switched to the selling, it was confronting, having to go and talk to people.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to talk about how confronting that was, and then how that felt after 5 conversations, 10 conversations, 20 conversations?
Oh, you definitely you become the salesman very quickly.
Yeah,
You get to know that, all of that was just something you were scared of. I don't know if there's a word for it. It's just your hesitation.
Yeah.
And once you get into the water, that hesitation comes out definitely. It's just with anything, like, when you're in the uni writing a report or anything, the first para is hard, and then once you're in there, you just start at it. It's just getting into phases, which is a bit confronting.
It gets comfortable, more comfortable over time.
Everything.
Yeah.
I think this applies for most things.
Absolutely. How about AI? I know that you've been an early adopter of everything to do with AI. Do you want to talk about how that's integrated itself into your processes, both in design of the product and design of the company?
Definitely. I think what we do is, initially we had like real fixed models. They were calculatable. Then over time we saw the demand for, who are our end users, and there's a good exercise you got, like, what's the job of the thing to do. What we found is that the end users are not our customers, actually. The people who actually use our product, we don't see them, although we love them, we design things for them, but they're not our customers. Our customers are the maintenance providers that use our product to maintain the machineries, the facility maintenance providers, and all the different companies. So we actually have a platform for them as well, where they can use the data and get that valuable information out of it. And we use machine learning to build a model where we can predict a machine that it would go back. Well, it's not always correct, but it's 90% that it needs some sort of servicing. There's something wrong with that particular machine. So definitely data, and that's only possible because we got very fine amount of data. We check temperature every 10 seconds from every machine.
Great. Well, I want to jump into the stakeholders in the sales process soon, but before I do that, think about AI from the perspective of you as a founder and the tools that you have access to, not just the way that you've integrated AI into your product. What are the tools that you're using right now as a founder to make your job easier, or make your job, make the outcome of your work better? So you showed us an output of chat. Is there anything else that you use, or how do you use chat?
Oh God, a lot of, in terms of programs, there's a lot. I still use MATLAB for a lot of simulations. There's a uni thing, because you're comfortable, like, whatever tools you learn at the uni, because I did engineering, so circuit design, coding, and see all the different areas. I'm still comfortable, still use the ones that I've learned in uni, and leveraging those skill set that I've learned in the uni into these areas all the time. In terms of particular data sets, tools, most of it, we create algorithms and different models, but largely for large language models, I think when people say AI, they think of large language models, but AI could be as simple as any automated response from a machine. And that's artificial intelligence. But now, because of an AI, of course, it'll hit, ChatGPT or that kind of AI. So, but we've been using it from the beginning already.
Okay. Back to your customers. You mentioned that your customers aren't just the staff in the store or in the retail outlet or wholesale outlet. It's actually the maintenance people. How long did it take you to figure that out?
Oh, long time. And the maintenance people, I just figured out it wasn't scalable, because how many people you can approach, because we could do another exercise called for customer cost acquisition. And then you work out that, okay, it's costing me more to acquire a customer than the customers.
Like going from store to store.
Yeah, store to store. It's just not possible. So you work out how can you leverage. So now we have wholesale distributors, we have the maintenance providers, and we have a system, we call them channel partners along the way, and they do the selling for you. And you bring them in, induct them, train them. We provide all the different things, and provide them some incentives, like, for example, the platform that they use. It helps them maintain the machines more efficiently. So it's a no-brainer for them. They're selling it to them, to the end users. They're utilizing it. Everyone's happy, and that's what you gotta have the whole supply chain, and you gotta keep everyone happy.
So you essentially kind of hack the growth model.
Yeah, but
you go to one to capture a bunch.
Yeah.
But you started one at a time until you figured that out.
Oh yeah, you gotta start.
Really unscalable at the start until you get to scale.
It's like, I think when you start from what I had to what I have now, it's gone through 5, 6 different iterations. The sensor was one, and we have like a V6 now, which is a 6th iteration. The tablet's been changed 4 or 5 times. The online platform, the tech stack's been completely changed many times. The database structure is always changing. It's just changing. It's very dynamic. It's like you're flying a plane while you're building it, and it's on the fly tweaking, and you hope to God that it doesn't break. Like if it falls, you die.
That's one way of putting it, yeah. Many founders take different approaches to funding their business. Some bootstrap, some go to angel investors or venture capitalists, some go to grants. What have you done in your founder journey to fund everything?
I'm a bit greedy. I gauged some people and got like what the valuation would I get at a very early, where I didn't have traction. So I found that if you didn't have any traction, unless you have a killer idea, plus you could leverage it very well, you'd get interest. I did get interest, but the valuations which I was given were not that I was interested in giving, because I already spent a lot of hard work and money into it as well. So I was organized what they have VMS, Venture Mentor Service, and I had some really good mentors, and I brought them about this problem dilemma that I had, and it's like a board of directors, really experienced, good people, and they said, well, Abid, the best option that you have right now was to go with debt financing. Debt financing, which I did get some help from my friends and family, but largely I managed to earn and work very narrowly to save every single dollar to get by. So, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. It was hard, but I managed to get it done.
I'm glad you touched on VMS. VMS, for anyone in the room, is called Venture Mentor Service, our mentor program that our accelerator participants, once they graduate the accelerator or finish the 13-week cohort-based program, they move on into VMS, where they get 2 to 4 mentors per team that help them on their journey. I'm glad that came useful. It is kind of like an advisory board before you set up your official board of directors. It's very helpful. But you touched on keeping it narrow, which is essentially keeping costs low. What strategies did you employ to do that as a bootstrapping founder?
You just work out, can the system work without it? Yes, don't do it. You just be very strict. Like if it's $1, you don't need it. Like,
how many people did you have in your team?
For example, I initially started Jira, right?
Yes.
And and then I worked out Trello was free, and it did most of the things we needed. Like we just go free.
Gotcha.
Like just whatever you can save money on, subscriptions, everything, just go cheap. Don't worry. Like don't have to think like you're Google or Facebook or something, starting off. Just go low scale, work it out. Once you have the money coming in, then upgrade. We spend a lot of money on different things now, but if you have no money coming in, you're going to go broke very quick. And I've gone broke many times. I've had weeks where I had no money in my pocket, no money. And I'm like, I don't even have money to eat, and I'm kind of like that of pride. I don't like asking. So one of my friends, he kind of is like a bit, he wouldn't even ask, like, come on, let's just go for a feed. Go, I'm like, okay, all right, so just keep quiet, and just very thankful to people to just offer assistance. And I think now I've changed and I've learned things. I just don't hesitate to ask now anymore. But before I was a very different person.
How about your team? Building all of this, building the business, how did you build your team? How have you built it up to who it is today?
So I have an office overseas in Pakistan. So I have a childhood friend who went and did engineering as well. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing this. I'm like, well, I can get, well, it's cheaper to employ people overseas. So I'm like, well, I do need people on this. So I managed to get a team of, now we have a team of 9 people of doing some software to different areas. As I said, I'm not superhuman, and I realized that very early on that I can't do everything. So you need other people, and you split. And that's also challenging. See, if I had the funding, I would have done it here. But due to the financial constraint, that was the only plausible way I could go forward with.
We're going to jump to the crowd pretty soon for questions. So if you've got a question or you're thinking about it, get ready to raise your hand. That team internationally, what's it like working with a team across different time zones and coming back and forth on builds? How did you manage that from here in Australia back to Pakistan or anywhere else?
Oh, it's a compromise on a lot of the ends. Initially, it worked for me because I was working evenings, as I mentioned. So it's the time zone different worked out fine because I could do my day job and come in and do the other job and have stand-ups, just scrums.
Yep.
Go through and this is what we're doing, these are the plans, and then everyone has their tasks. It's kind of a very tight team. Everyone is a product manager of their own task. I did get a good team, but you can because there's this cultural gap and there's English and there's a lot of different things involved, things can go south very quickly as well. But we worked it out. I learned. I made a lot of mistakes. I think I made more mistakes than I did right, and I learned. I hope I learned from.
But they weren't catastrophic mistakes.
Some of them were. Some of them were. But I had to work more to bring it back to how it should be. Then, but don't be afraid to make mistakes. We're humans make mistakes. That's fine.
So last question from me before we jump to the room. Think about everything you've accomplished so far. Think about the business. What's the one piece of advice you could give to someone who is just starting out on their startup journey?
If you feel like you want to do it, you would definitely regret not doing it. So do it.
Just jump in, yeah? Love it.
Just jump in.
Any questions from the crowd? Ben?
From my understanding, it looks like for me, like you did firstly the product, you iterate to have something before to go, let's say, to talk to your customer. If you were, and this looks like gave you a lot of stress, if you were kind of rethinking again your entire journey, would you have done maybe slightly differently by going out to ask people if they have the need before to do the product? Or you see what I mean?
I have a contradiction on that particular part with a lot of people. A lot of people do have the approach which you're saying. Oftentimes people don't know what they want. And this was one of the things I had to work, because if I asked for a customer's feedback, they would have taken me a whole different wrong journey. What I rather relied on is role playing. I imagined that I'm that person, I'm a user using it, and how would I want it to work? And imagine if I'm an 80-year-old person and I'm not tech savvy, how would I see it? So you do role play. I did role playing for a lot of this journey before, because if I did go to the customers, I did ask them, but those opinions, although some of them were valuable, but most of them would take you in the wrong path very quickly. So just go with some of your gut feel. Make sure you take your intuition as well, and take on the feedback at the same time.
Yeah, it's super important to use your intuition and your experience, having seen this happen where you'd worked before,
but most people,
then validating it with people.
As you mentioned, I wouldn't do it differently. I would have to, and I think anything would have to go through iteration. I haven't seen much things that first time they get it right.
Yep. Matt.
When you got bigger, I remember you were making all the sensors yourself.
Oh, yeah.
What was the process for you when you made the decision, I'm going to need someone to be a mass manufacturer for me? What were some of the challenges you found with that, and would you have done anything different?
Initial phases, I needed to learn, and plus I liked building them as well. So I took the opportunity and privilege to do them. But at one point, I'm like, it's too much, I can't do it anymore. And then I looked around, I wanted to have it all Australian made. I got a lot of quotations, many places that could assemble, but unfortunately, there's only one place that actually manufacture PCBs, and they only do defense work. Most of the PCBs comes from overseas, from particularly China, and they get assembled here. And you're paying a premium for that to get it done here. That would get you Australian made, but it's still kind of like iffy. So I'm like, if I'm gonna pay premium for that, so $30 for one sensor assemble versus $1.10, well, it's a no-brainer. So assembly mainly happened, and still happens in China. We design it, and it gets manufactured and assembled there.
How long did it take you to figure that out, that you needed to do that?
1 year or some more after selling. So most of the batches I did them by hand, by myself.
And we had the sensors in our fridges upstairs in the hub.
Oh yeah,
We
I
had
tested it.
all through the middle. There was
I would
Abid's
put
stuff
one-
in the middle, his manufacturing line on the desks upstairs. Yeah.
Hundreds, batches of hundreds, like big, and there's a lot of good facilities. Makerspace down there, I had laser cut jigs, put things in there, and it process. It looked like, I think it kept a lot of vibrancy, and everyone was like,
Yeah.
this is cool. Everyone was come around and stand like, what are you doing? Like,
Any other questions? Yes, Craig.
At the start, Abid, you were saying that really you looked around and there really wasn't anyone doing this kind of thing, or you didn't see any kind of solutions. Over the last couple of years, has that changed?
oh yeah.
And do you think that like a fridge manufacturer would just whack one on their fridge from the beginning?
Oh no, some of the companies now, fridges, they come pre-built, but with some of these technology already. So, temperature monitoring's probably been there from very early on. The only issue was it wasn't done in the intuitive way. The product and service was not as good or cheap that everyone could get. Usually they were wired in, wireless options weren't there, the technology wasn't there, then chips got cheaper, things got cheaper, got really low power, so we get 5 years now on a coin cell battery from a single sensor. So it was definitely the progression in technology that allowed that to happen, but probably the temperature monitoring's been happening since the early 1900s, electronically. And now there is definitely a lot of competition. There's a lot of companies doing it.
How do you find you differentiate across that competitive field?
We keep an edge. We constantly innovate as a iterate. We make it better. We provide we try to do the best services, and with other supplementary services along with that. That helps. Also, a good thing is, a lot of people, before I was a bit afraid of competition, that, I'm going to lose a bit of market and stuff, but actually it's the other way around. If you see there is competition, that means there is demand for it. It's a good thing to have competition rather than not.
How many Thermalogs say glass cream?
Oh, many. We actually save every place I go, and they tell me about a story about, their freezer broke down and they knew about it. So, as I said, just across the road, there's 10,000 each side, and then there's some of the places they have massive cool rooms, which at some point hold $20,000-$30,000 worth of stock in there. And this one place there's a lot of independents. So you have this place that do wedding venues. So we've saved a lot of weddings as well. Imagine just things going off one day before. It's not just the food that they're losing. It's they need their ability to trade and service their clients the next day. It's a service. It's their reputation on the line as well.
Any other questions? Yes.
From our point of view, it sounds like you guys mostly have static solutions where it's in a fridge somewhere in the building. Do you guys also do cold chain monitoring?
Remote cold chain, like in the trucks and stuff?
Yeah.
So we do, there's a company called Geotab. We integrate, because we got firmware, the chipsets we going to use Bluetooth, they support Bluetooth, so we now put the sensor that connects with that and relays that information into their system. But we just give them a sensor, so to say, particularly for them.
Okay.
I'm the winner. Abid, great story. Thank you for sharing. So you've got 9 staff, have technical staff coding and building. Have you had to employ staff to do kind of selling and marketing and any of that side of things, or is that you?
I did that, learned that. Not that I was very good at it, I'll admit it very openly. I was at one point looking at hiring, and I went to a lot of people, business development manager. And then I worked out, everyone said that if you can't sell it, just close it. Because if you're a founder and you can't sell it, it's game over. So as a founder, you gotta be able to sell it. And if you can't sell it, then there's something wrong. Some people I can see, some people are super shy on the spectrum and they don't like to talk to people, and that could be sense. But I suspect most people should be okay, and if they can do it, that would be the ideal way. But I worked out a different approach where I brought in channel partners, so I didn't really have to worry about that much.
So you structured your sales process around the fact that someone else.
So there's actually other people doing the marketing for me.
But they're not employees.
They're not my
They're
employees.
incentivized in other ways, yeah. Amy?
Was there any point where you just wanted to give up too hard, pack it in, and if there was, how did you overcome that? Or were you just really stubborn and you were like, this is going to work no matter what?
I think things that got me going would definitely be stubbornness, and I need to like prove them like, yes, yeah, I can do it. And you know, some people, if they came to me, you can't do it, I'm like, oh no, I'll tell you how I can. Definitely stubbornness played a role. Also, and definitely, there would be almost every day, there'd be times every morning I woke up and I'm like, let's just wrap it up, it's too much. And just, you know, I look everyone in my age, you know, having a good life, they're thinking about marrying, you know, they bought a new car and I'm like, oh, housewarming and all the things that I'm like, oh shit, what am I doing in my life? You know, there's a lot going on in everyone else's life, and you felt that, you see the surroundings, but then you had friends a bit, you know, short-term pain for a long-term gain, go for it. So I'm like, well, just suck it up and just...
Last question, Leonie.
Thank you, Richard. I thought we were going to ask the same thing. So you talked a lot. I appreciate all the product story, but I really love the personal story. So you mentioned it was really about you, and even Chatty was saying that's the project. So stubbornness, it sounds like you always had. What qualities do you believe this brought out in you and that have been really critical in the journey?
I love solving problems. If there's something, it's just natural. That hasn't always served me well. Just, you know, some people come to people who have problems, I'm like, I'll solve it for you, no problems. You know, you do have that. Problem solving is very thing. If I have a problem, I love, you know, how can I make it better? How can I do it? And that's why it motivates me to, let's do it better every time. You know, I think the tech background really played a role. And I think one of the things is people's expectations. I was lucky to have really good people around me, my parents, everyone. And I was just psychologically thinking about it. People had really high expectations of me. And I think that drove me to be a better person of myself every second day.
Were there any any new qualities, like as a leader and as a builder and as a problem solver, were there any new qualities in this journey that were that you developed as a result of being a founder?
Oh yeah. I see myself, I think probably everyone has that. You imagine your teenage days and you're like, oh, how come I did that? Like, you know, I was so stupid. And I've made many mistakes with people. I've been, I think I used to be over-opinionated and don't hold back and just tell people on their face, and like, you should do this. Now I kind of don't do that as much. Obviously a lot of things when you get exposed, you do a lot of things, talk less, let other people talk. Definitely, I think to be honest, as I said, if I hadn't been in this startup, I would have been finding these things in my 50s.
That's a good way to put it.
That's nice.
I'm sorry, we've run out of time.